You think you're making progress, but what if you're just getting better at resisting? What if healing isn't about doing more, but letting go? Stay with me, because this might change the way you see your entire journey. You know that feeling like you're constantly wrestling with life? Not in a loud, dramatic way, but in that quiet, internal kind of struggle. It's like this constant tension just sitting behind your eyes. You're trying to heal faster, trying to figure everything out, trying to get there, wherever that is, before life decides you've run out of time. But the harder you try, the heavier everything feels. You push and nothing moves. You plan and things stall. It's like sprinting through water, like forcing open a door that only opens when you stop touching it. And here's the weird part. Most people don't even realize they're forcing it. From the outside, it looks like discipline, focus, drive. But inside, it's pressure, mental and emotional strain. That low buzz in your mind that says, if I stop trying, everything will fall apart. And maybe no one told you this yet, but that belief right there, that's what's keeping you stuck. Because here's the truth, nothing flows when you're choking it into shape. Peace doesn't arrive through urgency. Clarity doesn't show up because you demanded it to. And the more you chase ease with effort, the more it slips through your fingers. Sometimes what looks like progress is actually just resistance in disguise. That's the tricky part. You're doing all the right things. You're staying busy, checking off goals, journaling, meditating. You're productive, but underneath it all, there's still tension, like you're running from stillness, fixing things that were never broken, answering questions no one asked. And deep down, you know it. You know this isn't sustainable, because even rest starts to feel like work. Even joy feels like another task on the to-do list. You go for a walk, but your mind won't stop spinning. You lay down to sleep, and you're still trying to solve peace like it's a business strategy. It's not that you're doing something wrong, it's that you've started to treat being okay like something you have to earn. So even when you're alone, you're still working on yourself, still pushing, still planning, trying to open doors with keys you don't need, trying to perfect things that just wanted to breathe. But life doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to presence. You can't force transformation by being more intense. You can't force healing by punishing yourself for not being there yet. You can't force timing by dragging life into your calendar. At some point, what you're calling effort is just resistance dressed up as ambition. And the more you push, mentally, emotionally, even spiritually, the more it feels like your whole life is held together by tension. Like if you stop for even a second, something will break. But maybe the thing that breaks isn't your life. Maybe it's just the illusion that you're supposed to control how everything unfolds. There's a moment, usually quiet, when it hits you. You're not just trying anymore, you're gripping. It doesn't come with a breakdown or a meltdown. It shows up as a tight chest while you're sitting in a calm room, as restlessness when everything is still, as a weird emptiness even when you've checked all the boxes. Because when you keep forcing things, your healing, your relationships, your progress, you stop relating to life. You stop being in the moment. You treat your growth like a project instead of a process. You analyze every feeling, looking for meaning. You overthink moments that just wanted to pass. You try to rush through confusion like it's a mistake instead of a part of the path. Eventually, you forget what it feels like to just be without trying to optimize it. That's what forcing really costs you. You lose sensitivity, not because you're heartless, but because your nervous system is always on alert. You can't relax. Even peace becomes something you have to earn. But here's something nobody talks about enough. What's real doesn't need to be forced. Yes, real growth can challenge you. It can stretch you, but it won't ask you to betray your own rhythm just to keep up. It won't require you to live in constant tension. So maybe the reason things haven't landed the way you hoped isn't because you're doing it wrong. Maybe it's because you're doing it too hard. Forcing isn't just physical, it's energetic, it's subtle. It's how you talk to yourself when things slow down. It's how you clench your jaw when life won't move on your schedule. It's how you keep showing up like someone who doesn't trust the moment unless they're managing it. But here's where everything can shift. Not when you get better at forcing, but when you finally stop needing to. When you stop tying your self-worth to results. When you loosen your grip. When you let ideas, people, even your own thoughts have space to breathe. When you stop trying to always be ready and instead just respond to what's actually here. That's not laziness. That's not giving up. That's alignment. The kind of alignment most people never feel because they're too busy proving that they're doing the work. So what happens when you really stop forcing? Not just for a second, not just pretending to let go while still checking the outcome, but actually releasing that invisible grip. At first, it feels weird, maybe even scary. You might feel lost. You might even feel lazy because life suddenly gets quieter, slower, almost too still. You'll be tempted to fill that silence with your usual go-to. Another plan, another journal entry, another breakthrough. But this time, nothing comes. Just space, just silence, just you. And that's where people panic because they've confused pressure with purpose. But if you can stay in that space, if you can resist the urge to control it, you'll start to feel something shift. Slowly, quietly, you'll start to hear yourself again. Not the voice that plans and fixes everything, but the quieter one. The one you stopped trusting a long time ago. You'll start to feel things instead of labeling them. You'll start to move without overthinking it. You'll rest without guilt. Not just physical rest, but mental, emotional, spiritual rest. And you'll realize something big. Growth doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes growth looks like slowing down. Sometimes it looks like nothing is happening until you look back and realize everything changed. When you stop forcing things, you start seeing the truth behind your old patterns. And one of the hardest truths to face is this: you were never actually in control. You were just carrying the illusion of control like a heavy backpack, hoping it would keep you safe. And in some ways, it did. It helped you survive. It gave you a sense of direction. It gave you something to do when everything felt uncertain. But now that illusion is suffocating you. Because here's the thing, there's a difference between being intentional and being controlling. Intention is soft. It's rooted in presence. Control is rigid. It's rooted in fear. And if you're honest, a lot of your discipline hasn't come from love or alignment. It came from fear of what might happen if you didn't push. Fear of slowing down. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of missing your chance. Fear of being left behind. That fear runs deep, and sometimes it hides behind your best traits, your ambition, your work ethic, your desire to grow. But deep down, you know the difference between moving from love and moving from fear. And until you face that fear, until you stop letting it quietly drive everything you do, you'll keep repeating the same exhausting cycle. You'll keep chasing peace while running from stillness. You'll keep demanding answers while ignoring silence. You'll keep controlling your healing and wondering why it feels so unnatural. At some point, you have to ask, what am I so afraid of happening if I just stop? If I stop fixing, stop forcing, stop over-explaining myself to everyone, even to myself, will the world fall apart or will it finally come into alignment? Because sometimes the real power move isn't in doing more. It's in finally trusting yourself enough to let go, to step back, to breathe. That doesn't mean you give up. It doesn't mean you let life walk all over you. It means you stop gripping everything so tightly that you squeeze the life out of it. You let life have some space to move without your constant supervision. That's real maturity. Being able to tell the difference between when something needs your effort and when something needs your surrender. And here's the beautiful, uncomfortable truth. Most of what you're clinging to, you don't actually need it. You don't need to obsess over every outcome. You don't need to mentally rehearse every possible version of the future. You don't need to earn your peace with suffering. You've already done enough. You've already proven yourself to the version of you that needed to survive. Now it's time to learn how to live. And living requires trust, not blind faith, not denial, but that deeper kind of trust. The kind that doesn't need all the answers before it takes a step. The kind of trust that knows you don't have to force what's already meant for you. Think about that for a second. How much of your exhaustion comes from chasing things that would have found you anyway? If you had just softened a little, not because you're lazy, not because you don't care, but because you're finally done trying to outperform your own destiny. You're done acting like it's all on you, because you're not here to be a machine. You're not here to constantly prove your worth by how much you can endure. You're here to feel, to grow, to be, to flow. And sometimes flow looks like stillness. It looks like doing less, but feeling more. It looks like letting things be unclear for a while without trying to label it stuck. It looks like giving yourself permission to not have it all figured out. Because real breakthroughs don't come from mental gymnastics. They come from moments of clarity that rise out of silence. That kind of silence can't be forced. It has to be allowed. So if you're in that space right now where you don't know what's next, where you feel tired for no clear reason, where nothing seems to be landing, maybe that's not failure. Maybe that's your system finally asking for rest. Not the kind of rest you reward yourself with after you've earned it, but the kind of rest that says, you don't have to do anything more to be worthy of peace. That kind of rest changes everything. It dissolves the tension you didn't even know you were carrying. It lets you meet life without armor. It makes space for new answers, not from your mind, but from something deeper, because that's where clarity comes from, not from force, but from presence, from being still enough to hear the subtle truth you've been running past for years. That you're already enough, that your value was never in how hard you tried, that the healing you want doesn't arrive when you finally become perfect. It begins when you allow yourself to be whole right now as you are. That's the paradox. When you stop forcing yourself to grow, you actually start growing, not from pressure, but from softness, from presence, from deep, quiet trust. And from that place, everything begins to shift. You begin to show up differently. You stop chasing and start aligning. You stop controlling and start creating. You stop overthinking and start feeling. And slowly, you remember what it feels like to live from peace instead of chasing it. So here's your reminder, in case no one said it to you lately. You can let go now. You don't have to keep holding everything together with tension. You don't have to keep fixing yourself. You don't have to keep proving your worth through productivity pain. You're allowed to soften. You're allowed to trust. You're allowed to just be. Let that be enough. Let that be where the next chapter begins.